Direct from Kansas City, it's Comic Book Late Night with Captain Logan! Featuring brand new comic book reviews, thoughts on comic news, obscure character of the week, and a little something from the comic vault. And now, here's Captain Logan!
Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and it's time once again for Comic Book Late Night. Now, there's a major feature to the show that I'm actually going to be missing tonight, and hopefully you'll barely notice, but that is new comic reviews. Now, I got kind of snowed in today. We had this giant snowstorm, and the comic shop closed early, and to make a long story short, I'm not going to be able to get my books until well into the weekend. So initially, I had planned to just put the show off until I got my books and could review them, but then I started realizing just how much material I had for the show and how much comic news there is to talk about, and there's a lot of stuff going on that I'm itching to talk about. The Dark Knight Rises and the new Spidey suit and such, and so I'm going to talk about all that stuff tonight. And anyway, to make a long story short, I decided, well, there's so much to do, and then there's this other thing that I've been wanting to do that I haven't had really an excuse for. So I'm going to put a special segment tonight in place of normal comic reviews. So hopefully the show will still be eventful and fun for you, and we're going to do it anyway. So stay tuned. There's actually quite a lot to see tonight. And in the meantime, I want to talk for a minute about colors. Now, Green Hornet opened this weekend, and it got me thinking about all the different superheroes who have colors in their names. And two of them are getting movies this year, when we've never really had superheroes with colors in their names get movies before. None that I can really think of. And we're going to get Green Hornet and Green Lantern this year. Out of the 5 big superhero movies we're getting this year, 5, it's going to be a great year for superhero movies. Two of them are green superheroes, and the other ones are, First Avenger, Captain America, First Avenger, and Thor, and X-Men First Class. Of course, none of those have colors in their names. And the superhero community is apparently really up in arms about this. From what I've heard, apparently all of the superheroes who have colors in their names have banded together, and they're going on strike. And any superhero who has a color in their name is going to refuse to use their color in their name until more colors start getting their fair due, besides just green. So, for instance, Black Lightning is just going to call himself Lightning, and Black Bolt is just calling himself Bolt, and the White Queen has changed her name to Emma Frost. And the only superhero, of course, that is immune to this, the one exception, is Black Widow, who, according to Marvel Studios, is actually going to get her own movie in a couple years. That's actually apparently supposed to happen. And so she went on record to say that she's not worried about it because in a couple years, when she gets her own movie, she says that black will be the new green. So she's not worried about it. She also went on record to state that she's glad that she isn't having to go on strike because she would hate to have to just simply go by Widow. Now, it's becoming a problem with some people because you've got heroes that are becoming really ambiguous, like Red Robin and Red Hulk, who are now just going by Robin and Hulk, which is really confusing people and is really irritating the actual Robin and the actual Hulk. And in related news, Lex Luthor is apparently looking around all over the world for this special magic ring that will allow him to actually run every superhero movie that's happening subsequent to the ones that we've already had. And if he got this ring, he would become director, producer, and writer and star in every superhero movie that's gonna be made. So every movie would be a Lex Luthor movie. And the one thing he assures everyone is that when and if he gets this ring and this actually happens, he's not going to have any of his movies feature a Lex Luthor creating a giant mountain of kryptonite. He promises that won't happen. And where is Green Arrow during all of this? Well, Green Arrow is also, of course, very upset because there's 3 big green heroes, and he's one of them, and he's not getting a movie this year. So he says that until DC makes his movie, he is going to hole himself up in his magic forest and refuse to do anything proactive or very interesting. I've got a great show for you tonight. I'm going to review Green Hornet a little bit later. Also going to talk about Dark Knight Rises and all kinds of other stuff. But first, right now, in place of comic reviews, I'm going to show you briefly my favorite 10 issues of last year. Going to do that right now. Okay, here come my top 10 favorite issues from 2010. Now, I'm going to be somewhat brief with this. I'm not going to do full reviews of each of these because I've reviewed most of them before on other programs. There are series that I would have loved to have been represented here that aren't. I couldn't find a single issue of Brightest Day, for instance. I didn't pick one from Red Robin or Return of Bruce Wayne, and it was because a lot of those series I felt were just too fluid, and I couldn't come up with, you know, the one issue that was good enough to be in the top 10. So those as series are fantastic, but the storylines are just too interconnected. It was hard to pick a single issue. So these are instead the issues that I found to by themselves be most memorable. And so I'll go through them, and here we go. Number 10. Number 10 is Gotham City Sirens number 9. I really liked this because of the Riddler. This is the thing that made me think, hey, the Riddler should get his own monthly. He's fantastic in this. And ironically, I ended up dropping this book shortly after I started getting it, and I started getting less impressed with it after Paul Dini wasn't writing on it all the time. This, as by itself, 9 and 10 are their own story arc. This by itself was just really fun, and Riddler was kind of more prominent in it than the normal characters. It felt like kind of his book for a minute. And so, yeah, it got me just really in a Riddler. I've been in a Riddler mode for a while now, thanks to that. Number 9 is Superman Batman number 76. This gave us something that we hadn't really had much since Final Crisis, which was, how does Superman feel about this whole death of Bruce Wayne thing? And Superman feels about kind of like I did when that happened. He doesn't think that Dick Grayson should be taking on the mantle of Batman. He doesn't think that it's respectful to Bruce Wayne, and they get in kind of a falling out over it. And of course, obviously, Dick Grayson kind of wins out at the end, but his feelings about it are really valid, and I really respected Judd Winnick for doing this. Winnick's usually kind of a little bit hit and miss, but I really liked it. I really liked it here, and the art in this is just astounding. And then number 8 is The Flash number 7. Really, this whole series has been really fantastic. But this one stood out for me, and I haven't been reading all this. I feel like kind of a dunce for not keeping up with this series the way I ought to be. This is Jeff Johns' best stuff. Jeff Johns is doing great work on Brightest Day. I like this better. This is the background of Captain Boomerang, and I really like what he does with the character. He's so good at making me like villains and giving characters with weird motifs, a reason to exist. Number 7 is Action Comics number 894. This is Lex Luthor meeting Death. Lex Luthor thinking he's dead and meeting Death. I think this is the most fun so far in this series, and stands alone really well. So I mean, if you haven't been reading this is pretty easy to pick up and just read. It was really neat that they integrated the Sandman Death character in the normal DC universe, and I like the characterization for Lex Luthor. I really like how he's exploring his own mortality. Then we've got Avengers number 5. Again, I like this whole series so far. This is in the first arc, which is the whole, time stream all messed up. And this has my most favorite art. This has got the really awesome, full 2-page spread where we see Apocalypse and we see the anti-venom horse thing. And this is the one I found this really memorable. There were a lot of images in this that I really took with me. Number 5, we've got Superman Last Family of Krypton number 1. This was cool because it brought Elseworlds back, and see, it's got the Elseworlds logo, and I hope that they'll keep doing, I hope this sold really well. I hope they'll keep doing Elseworlds stories again, because I missed them. They were a lot of fun. Elseworlds is cool, What If is cool. And
this takes the whole L family and brings them to Earth as well as Kal-El, and we get to see really interesting, like, political and religious stuff, you know, what Jor-El does on Earth, how he's kind of, he's becoming kind of a corporate mastermind. He employs Lex Luthor as a kid, and then Laura's got her whole, like religious cult thing she's building up. Meanwhile, Kal-El ends up getting brought up by the Kents, and is more or less growing up the way he usually would, except he's got his biological parents looming over him. I thought this was a great idea, and the execution was as good as the idea, and that's impressive with a concept like this. Then, number 4. And Invincible Iron Man number 25. This is the thing that got me into this series, and I've subsequently dropped it, not because I don't like it, but because it was just getting really hard to keep up with. So I'm going to read these in trade. I think it's actually a really great series. This was also my introduction to Matt Fraction. I hadn't really read much of Fraction's stuff before, and now I understand why he's so well liked. But yeah, this is the beginning of Detroit Steel, and it also kind of gives us the aftermath of you know, Iron Man losing his memory and how he's dealing with that, and the beginning of Stark Resilient and all of that. And I don't know, for the beginning of something, this is a really great jumping on point, and I thought that it actually was a pretty smooth read by itself. 3 is Superman number 701. A lot of people didn't like this, and I was in the camp that thought that this was really quite stellar. This is JMS jumping on Superman, and this was the one issue of this grounded arc that I really loved. And unfortunately, everything after this has not been all that great, and it's been going downhill, and I've subsequently dropped the book. But this by itself is probably the issue that more than anything spoke to me last year. I really liked how JMS brought stuff into perspective and has Superman really commenting on real world stuff and dealing with human beings, you know, and especially if you put it in context, it was really great because it's right after all of the you know, Last Stand on New Krypton, War of the Supermen, which were both things I really loved, and there's some profound stuff in this. Superman going around being a wandering philosopher was a great idea to me. I like how it starts. I've not liked it since then, but that doesn't hurt this issue. Number 2 is Batman Beyond number 4. This was the, and of course, if you know me, you know this is probably my favorite series of the whole year. But this was the issue that really brought everything together and did a great job interconnecting the Batman Beyond TV show with regular continuity stuff and giving us the background of what actually happened to Dick Grayson and all of that. This was the most fun issue, and once again, I would say that this is probably kind of readable by itself, and if you don't read any of the whole series, I'd say this is the one. And then, finally, last one, Batman Inc. number 1. A cop-out? Maybe. But I couldn't do this without putting Morrison in here, and again, Morrison had a lot of fantastic issues of other things this year. Return of Bruce Wayne, Batman and Robin, etc. But this is where everything was going. And I wondered all year long if it was going to be worth it. And then I got to this, and it was. And this was marvelous. He's so good at writing Bruce Wayne and his interesting relationships with other characters. It isn't just that Morrison knows how to write Bruce Wayne. He knows how to write Catwoman. He knows how to take their long running, you know, spanning relationship and make it interesting. And of course, once again, the art's really fun. Morrison keeps bringing back characters people haven't heard of or haven't heard about in a long time. We got Lord Deathman here and everything. This is just a fantastic beginning of a series, and number 2 was great, and it's up there. It's one of my favorite series right now. So those are my 10 favorite issues this year. I was somewhat surprised by some of the stuff I ended up picking, and it was tough. You know, it was tough to choose. There's a lot of stuff. Also, it was really DC heavy. Not because I hate Marvel, although I've certainly liked more DC this year than Marvel. I've made no bones about that. But it also, I just haven't been reading a lot of Marvel this year. I only ever had 3 or 4 Marvel books on my pull list at one time. So I don't know. I think Invincible Iron Man and Avengers are the 2 best series of last year, in my opinion. Also, okay, and now it's time for some comic news. Okay, so I saw Green Hornet over the weekend, and I was really surprised that I liked it as well as I did. I think part of it is because the advertising campaign was quite good. I don't know if there's been enough advertising, but the reason I say that is because I feel like I knew exactly what it was going into it. I wasn't thinking that it was going to be like this really serious superhero movie. I didn't have any disillusion. I didn't have any disillusionment about, you know, if it was going to like hold true to any Green Hornet source material or anything like that. It was a Seth Rogen comedy with superheroes that was loosely based on Green Hornet. And I went in and I didn't have any expectations, and so I enjoyed it because it was actually a lot more clever, and a lot funnier than I thought it was going to be. Having said that, certainly it's not the Green Hornet movie I would have wanted to see or I would have made. Then again, I'm not like a big Green Hornet fan, so like, what do I care? As far as the Green Hornet itself goes, here's the thing. I don't blame Seth Rogen for the fact that Green Hornet turned into just an action superhero spoof movie. I blame Kevin Smith for that, because Kevin Smith had the opportunity to make the consummate Green Hornet movie, and he turned it down because he doesn't think that he can direct that kind of movie. He doesn't feel like he's a good enough filmmaker to do you know action and special effects scenes and things like that. So he wrote a script, and then it became as everybody's pretty familiar with now, it became this Dynamite series, and this Dynamite comic book series, and a lot of people ranting and raving about it. I haven't read it yet. And anyway, he had the chance to make the consummate Green Hornet movie, and he backed out. So Seth Rogen, from what I've heard, wanted to make a superhero comedy, and when the Green Hornet license came up, they gave it to that. And the thing I resist about it, the only thing I resist about it, so don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the movie, and I think that as long as you know what it is going into it, and you like the kind of comedy that it is, you'll like it. The problem, and the only thing that irritates me about it is the fact that brand recognition has become everything. It's too bad that this couldn't have been its own superhero property like Hancock was. Not that I love Hancock or anything, but it's too bad because they could have sold it on its own merits, where they weren't just hoping that the name Green Hornet would get people into the movie theater. Now, having said that, I'm glad they didn't do what they did with The Spirit, where they tried to make it look from the trailers like it was a different movie than it was, and then you go in and it turns out it's this comedy thing. Because The Spirit, I felt like they tried to market that like it was Sin City, and then it turned out to be this whole hokey comedy, this bizarre kind of movie. So I don't know. I'm on the fence about it because on the one hand, I wish brand recognition wasn't everything, and on the other hand, it ended up being a lot more funny, or a lot funnier and a lot more clever than I thought it was going to be. So there you go. There's some neat casting in it, and one in particular I wanted to mention is Edward James Olmos, who is, of course, Admiral Adama in Battlestar Galactica, and I couldn't believe he was on the screen when he popped in. I was like, really? They got that guy? And he plays the editor of the Daily Sentinel. And one look at him on the screen, and I thought, that guy should be Perry White. That's fantastic. And I wish he'd gotten a little bit more to do. I don't know. Kato was wonderfully cast. Everybody's been talking about him. He was absolutely fantastic. He's got the best characterization in the movie, but I feel like Seth Rogen wrote the script, and I feel like the one thing that he missed with Kato is that there are scenes where Kato starts talking a little bit too much like Britt Reed, and that would have been okay if it had been played up like Britt Reed was rubbing off on him. But I felt like it was just a limitation in vernacular where he would just start saying the sorts of things like Britt Reed would say, and I didn't really buy it. And it's a hokey comedy. It's really over the top. So I suppose it's okay that the characterizations are so archetypal. Like you've got the lazy guy with no ambition, who would love to go somewhere in life, but he's just too lazy to do anything. And then you've got Kato, who's over the top the other direction of he can do anything, and you can do anything the script wants him to do. And it's fun for the most part, but then you've got places where it's just unbelievable. I have a hard time buying that Kato would be dumb enough not to assume that Britt Reed would do some of the stupid stuff he does. But anyway, like I said, it was a lot more clever than I thought it was going to be, and the bad guy's hilarious. He's one of the most fun parts, and I don't know if I should spoil this or not. There's one scene in particular that I thought was really hilarious. I'll be cryptic. I won't tell you exactly what it is. But there's this okay, we see that because Kato is so good at martial arts and he's so well trained that he can basically perceive time as if it's slowed down. And he has like nearly this like robotic like radar thing where he can we see from his perspective, and he like lights up people and knows exactly where they are, and then he goes at them and does everything in slow motion. Later on in the movie, when Britt Reed kind of sort of does that, that is the funniest scene in the whole movie, I think. But anyway, enough about that. Now I want to talk a little bit about the new Spider-Man suit. And my answer to, is it cool, does it look good, is, I don't know, I haven't seen the mask yet. I think the Spider-Man mask is the big iconic part of the Spidey suit, and I think that there's a reason they haven't shown us that yet. Not that I think it's going to be bad or anything, but just that they're trying to whet our palates a little bit. We've seen a little bit of the suit, and later on they'll reveal the mask, and if it's awesome, then we'll be like, ooh, cool, sweet. What I think is strange just about the photo they chose is it seems like a very strange strategy, and I don't know why they chose this particular picture, because so if you look at it, Peter Parker's face is kind of messed up. He's got some scratches. His uniform has some it's been messed up. And he is carrying a backpack, and I just gotta wonder what the context is of this picture. But from what we can see, the costume looks fine. I like that it's not real rubbery. I like that it looks a little bit more realistic than the last costume, in the sense that I can more imagine a guy just sewing it together. I just think that he looks good. This guy looks like Peter Parker to me. Last bit of news I want to talk about is the big one this week, The Dark Knight Rises. And Bane's going to be Tom Hardy, and Catwoman is going to be Anne Hathaway. I'm totally cool with both of these choices. I personally think it's great. I know there's a lot of fans that are kind of up in arms about it. I say what I think a lot of fans of Begins and Dark Knight say is give it time and trust Nolan. The man knows what he's doing. And I'll say that when there were rumors going around that maybe it was Talia al Ghul, that was the one that I wasn't going to be real sure about. Even with it being Nolan, I was going to be like, why in 3 movies are we overemphasizing the Al Ghuls this much? I know a lot of people really wanted Talia al Ghul. I wasn't sure it was going to fit all that well, and I'm kind of glad they didn't go that direction. Although, once again, it's Nolan. I'm sure he could have proven me wrong. But anyway, Bane is one of the first ones I thought of when I was trying to think of what characters would be cool for Dark Knight Rises, and I kind of immediately dismissed it. I didn't figure he'd go there, so I'm really excited that that's happening. Again, I know a lot of fans aren't, but Bane is a character I've always really liked. I'm a big fan of Nightfall, and the thing with Bane is that Bane has kind of one story. He's got Nightfall, and he's been in some other things, and I mean, and he's been great in some other things, but like that's the one story everybody thinks about, he's the man who broke Batman's back. Very much in the same way that Doomsday is the guy who killed Superman. They're both kind of plot devices that existed to do a certain thing. The difference between Bane and Doomsday is that Bane was presented in such a way where I also bought it. That, he's not just a big brutish guy who just walked up behind Batman and broke his back. Bane actually has the wits to match Batman. He's got the intellect. And Tom Hardy is such a cool choice. I don't know what he's going to look like as Bane. Obviously, Tom Hardy's not a giant, bodybuilder guy, so I don't know what they're going to do with that exactly. But just as far as the intellect and that kind of thing, I think that he's a great choice, and Tom Hardy always plays intellectuals, so I'm excited about it. I think that's really cool. And the thing about Catwoman, okay, a lot of people have been saying things like, well, we're sick of the 2 villain formula. Why does it always have to be 2 villains? And this is not a matchup that like, makes a lot of sense on paper. Yeah, Bane and Catwoman. Well, chances are, this being Nolan, he's not just going to have them team up, right? They're going to be different plots, I would guess. Chances are. Chances are strong that that's the case. And I mean, Batman Begins. You know, it's not like it's not like Ra's al Ghul and Scarecrow made a lot of sense as a matchup. So, and that worked perfectly. It was fantastic. So I think it's going to be fine. Here's why you couldn't have, or at least why I don't think you could very easily have just Catwoman by herself as a villain in a movie. The Begins Dark Knight movies are not just superhero movies. They're also crime drama, and that means that you need the manipulative crime lord kind of character. You need that, or something like it. Because, I mean, you know, you had crime drama with Dark Knight, and then you had the Joker, who was an entirely different kind of thing than Ra's al Ghul was in the first movie. And that's really good. That's why they worked so well, because they were such different kinds of characters. But still, it's always been crime drama. And you wouldn't have that with Catwoman. You know, Catwoman's not a mob boss. Catwoman is a thief. She works for herself. She doesn't have, like, you know, a bunch of underlings underneath her, and her plans have nothing to do with trying to take over the city or anything, or the world or whatever, or get power, whatever it happens to be with your normal crime lord. Bane could be that, or Bane could be hired by someone else. Who knows exactly how they're going to do it. But I think Catwoman makes all kinds of sense because, and I don't know exactly, naturally we don't know what the plot is yet, but I think Catwoman makes a lot of sense because of where Batman was left at the end of the last film. We need another female character in this continuity because we don't have any right now. That's a point that Manos brought up in his talk about this, and it's a good one. But the other thing is that Batman is going to need someone to deal with, you know, to play off of while he's on the run from the law. And what better person for that than Catwoman? It makes a lot of sense. And so, as far as, like, casting choice with her, Anne Hathaway, I don't know Anne Hathaway that well. I haven't watched a lot of the films she's been in. A lot of people have complained that, oh, she's been in a lot of chick flicks, so she's a bad pick. It doesn't matter what an actress has been in before. Good directors can see things in actresses and actors that, you know, normal people couldn't just by looking at them. And so I think we just need to wait and see. I think she looks fine for the part, and honestly, I'm generally not worried about casting until I see a movie. Usually, if it's a director I trust, I'll be like, oh, he probably knows what he's doing. And I've never had a problem with anybody that Nolan has ever cast in a part. Really, I know a lot of people didn't like Rachel Dawes in the first movie. She didn't bother me, so I trust him. I'm sure she's going to be fine, and I'm excited for it. I think it's great. And the other thing is, a lot of people were complaining because Chris Nolan had been saying that he was, or at least everybody thought that Chris Nolan had said that he wasn't going to put anybody on screen villain-wise that had been in a Batman movie before. And isn't the internet irritating sometimes? Like, did he really say that, or was that just something that floated around and everybody assumed that it was something he had said? Because honestly, I bought into that too. I had nixed Catwoman and Bane a long time ago because I figured that he was only doing characters that had never been done before. But I'm glad that he's doing these characters because we've never had Selina Kyle portrayed the way that I think she should be portrayed. Naturally, the Bane and Batman Robin doesn't count, so we're finally going to get real versions of these characters. And also, you got to follow up Dark Knight. You know, you're following Dark Knight. You have the Joker and Two-Face. So, I mean, it just seems to me like the movie would have been a little bit harder to sell had the villains been like Black Mask and Talia al Ghul, or Talia and Hugo Strange. I don't know, like, they're characters that, you know, you and I probably know, but your average person isn't going to go, oh, you know, Hugo Strange. And maybe not Bane either, but for those of you that don't love Bane, I don't know. I think that Nolan is liable to turn some people into Bane fans. I think he's liable to turn some people around on Bane. Anyway, that's it. That's all the news for this week. And now, how about a trivia question? Today's trivia question is, in what comic book series did the mantle of Red Robin first appear? Not the Tim Drake Red Robin, but just the costume and the mantle itself. In which series did that first come up? Leave your answer in the comments below, and if you get it right, the first person to get it right, of course, I'll mention, as always, in next week's episode, and give your channel a shout-out. And last week's question was, what X-Man was referred to by the nickname Slim in the earliest X-Men comic series? And that, of course, was none other than Scott Summers, Cyclops. And in fact, in the first issue, in the earliest incarnation of Cyclops, he was called Slim Summers, and then later they changed it to Scott, and from what I read, now recent reprints of X-Men #1 have actually changed it also to Scott Summers. And the first person to get that right was Amuia, so well done to you, and be sure, like I said, to put your answer to this question in the comments. And now it's time for Obscure Character of the Week. Our obscure character for this week is brought to you by The Hand. For all your ninja assassin needs, don't hire the foot, hire The Hand. Have you ever heard of Dreamslayer? First appearing in Justice League Europe in 1990, Dreamslayer led a group called the Extremists on the planet Angor, and they caused a nuclear holocaust there. He survived by going to the Dimension of Terrors. And really, trying to escape a nuclear holocaust seems to me to be the only reason to go to a place called the Dimension of Terrors. When he went back to his homeworld, he found that his team had been turned into robots. Naturally. So he led these robotic extremists and tried to take over Earth, but was beaten, of course, by the Justice League. He was finally banished to the Dimension of Terrors again by the Overmaster because he got greedy and tried to steal his powers. If you'd like to make a request for Obscure Character of the Week, or if you have some fan art you'd like to show off, or if you have a question you'd like me to answer on the show, or anything like that, be sure to send me a personal message on Geekvolution at our YouTube channel. Today in the Comic Book Vault, we have Spider-Man 2099 #1. I think some fans look back on Marvel's 2099 imprint as a bad idea, but at the time it was extremely popular. And of the many 2099 titles, I think Spider-Man 2099 was the most inventive, freshest, and best written. This issue is written by Peter David, one of my personal favorite comic writers, who completely brings us into this futuristic world with ease. There's a sense of confidence to his writing. We're thrown right into this unfamiliar world, rather than being eased in through some kind of bridging between time periods. Peter David has an excellent grasp of science fiction, and that's how he approaches this. It feels like the beginning of a sci-fi epic more than a superhero tale, though it opens with a few pages of Spider-Man being chased by some cops, just so there's some action in this book to balance out all the exposition, and to really sell us on the costume. The two-page spread at the beginning is probably the most famous of Spider-Man 2099 art, and it's magnificent. But this does lead to the one thing I've always hated about this issue, and it even bugged me when I was a kid. We get this big action scene at the beginning, and the very next scene shows an exhausted Miguel O'Hara entering his futuristic home. As we read on, we eventually realize that these scenes are out of sequence, and that the chase at the beginning occurs sometime after the events of the rest of the issue. But there's no timestamp or anything to let us know that Miguel hasn't become Spider-Man yet, and we're reading his origin story. The natural assumption is that he's exhausted in this scene because he was just swinging around the city. But as we learn that he works at a genetics lab and he's been researching spider mutations like the one the original Spider-Man had, it's kind of jarring. The story is classic superhero origin. Something happens to a guy in a lab that gives him power, and eventually we can be sure he's going to become a superhero. But David subverts this by making it an intentional lab accident, a rival colleague who causes Miguel's mutation, rather than a convenient accident. It also feels more like a supervillain origin, especially since he becomes a grotesque-looking monster at the end. And this engages the reader and entices us to want to continue, because we want to know how this terrible tragedy could lead Miguel to become Spider-Man. Well, that's all the time we have for you tonight. I want to thank everybody for watching. Thanks as always to Pop Culture Comics. If you're ever in the Kansas City area, be sure to check them out in Overland Park, Kansas. I'll have brand new comic reviews for you next week. Don't forget to support your local comic book store. And if you ever find a snow globe, before you shake it, check first. Be careful, because it just might be the Bottle City of Kandor. This is Captain Logan, signing off.